Welcome back to the deep dive. So we usually spend our time on, business strategies, productivity hacks, but today we're pivoting to something surprisingly intimate. We've got a source text here titled Talking About Jesus.
Yeah, it's a bit of a departure. It's essentially confessional prayer.
Hmm.
But before you tune out thinking this is just theology, we really need to look at the psychological argument it's making.
Hmm.
It tackles a very specific, I think, universal tension, the exhaustion of constantly trying to earn your place
Mm.
versus the idea of unconditional acceptance.
That distinction is exactly why we're covering it. I mean, we live in a world that is strictly transactional.
Completely.
You do the work, you get the reward, you perform, you get the praise. This text seems to be proposing a completely different operating system.
It really does. It challenges the why behind what we do.
Hmm.
The mission here for us is to unpack this claim that true freedom doesn't come from performance. It suggests your status is settled before you even start the day.
Okay, let's get into the logic there, because it starts with a concept you mentioned earlier, the first mover.
Right. The text is very explicit on this. It says, your love came first before I ever sought you, before I ever turned my heart toward you.
Before you did anything.
Exactly. In a normal relationship or a job, you have to initiate. You have to prove your worth to get a response. This argues that this divine love is proactive, not reactive.
So it's not a response to good behavior.
Yeah,
That's difficult to wrap your head around when everything else in life is so performance-based.
it is. The writer calls this love immutable, unchanging, and eternal. It's a constant variable, you see. Our performance, our faithfulness, or our failures, that's a fluctuating variable. The argument is that the constant isn't affected by the fluctuation.
Which sounds great in theory, but the text is also pretty honest about the human side of it. It doesn't pretend the writer is just, constantly focused on this immutable love. It calls the heart restless and divided.
That's the friction point. That's the struggle. The source lists all these competitors for the heart's attention. Things like comfort, approval, success.
And fleeting pleasures. It contrasts the voice of God with the loud world. And I think that's a fair assessment. The notifications, the demands, the ads, it's all screaming for our attention.
It is. And the text says these things promise satisfaction, but they ultimately leave the writer empty.
False substitutes for joy. I like that phrase.
It's a great phrase. Think of it like nutritional value, right? Junk food is loud and appealing, but it doesn't actually fix the hunger.
Yeah.
The writer admits these things leave them empty because they aren't designed to bear the weight of real human need.
The empty calories of the soul. You consume it, but you're still starving. Okay, but here's where the logic usually breaks down for me. When you chase those distractions, when you wander, as the text says, the normal consequence is rejection. If I ignore a friend for a month, they stop calling.
Right, that's human logic. But the text presents a totally different dynamic. It claims that when the writer's eyes wander and desires scatter, the divine response isn't withdrawal, it's pursuit. It says God continues to pursue with steadfast love.
So instead of getting a timeout, it's an intensification of the relationship. It reframes the deity from a distant God to be feared, basically a judge keeping score.
To a loving father, yes. And this isn't just sentimental language. It actually changes the mechanics of why the writer acts. This gets us to that section on duty versus gratitude.
Right. If you believe you are on thin ice, your behavior is just driven by fear, that I have to do this or I'm out, feeling. The text prays to move from faith as a duty I force to a response that flows naturally from gratitude.
It shifts from grinding because you have to working because you want to. The argument is that security comes from the relationship itself, not from accumulating stuff or accolades. When the writer realizes no possession can match the joy of being known, the distractions lose their power.
And the text wraps up with a request to love rightly, to love alone, above all things. It seems the argument is you can only really do that if you aren't terrified of losing your status.
That is the core insight, absolutely. Freedom is found in the certainty of being loved beyond measure. It removes the anxiety of earning, which, paradoxically, allows you to live more fully. You aren't paralyzed by the fear of failure.
It's a radical inversion of the whole hustle culture mindset.
It is. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. If this source is correct, that love and acceptance happen before performance, how would that change the way you handle your next big mistake? Would you hide it, or would you use it as a stepping stone?
That's a powerful place to leave it. Thanks for helping us unpack this one.
Always a pleasure.